Evening, everyone. Hello. So, yes, I thought we would kick off with Tommy Temnane's getting deported twice. And it's more specific than that as well. So, I'm sure we all know why he was deported. I can get onto that in a moment. But I'd be embarrassed. Wouldn't you be embarrassed? Given it's a bit like, these American evangelicals, the stage ones. Oh, I'm going to heal you. Give me money, right? And then they talk about, morality all the time, as you'd expect a cleric to do, as you'd expect a preacher to do. But they talk about it all the time. And then they get caught. Sometimes it's as simple as adultery, but, sometimes they get caught in sexual harassment cases and stuff like that. And you think to yourself, that should be embarrassing, shouldn't it? Not for Tommy Temnanes. I want to, before we go over the deportation, I want to just preface what happened. So this time last week, of course, we were talking about his what he calls the Unite the Kingdom rally, even though it's very much a Divide the Kingdom rally. And I tend to call it the Tommy Robinson Holiday Fund, because that's what he was doing. He was getting money. Then he said, I'm going to read out some of what he said in the lead up to this. So he says, I needed a break. Well, this is, when he goes to this first. I needed a break, just needed to have a break from everything. What did he need a break from? What did he need a break from? The toxicity of his own campaign? Is it getting him down, poor little Tommy, right? Needed a break from what? When do I get a break? I get 2 days off a year. I could give myself more time off, frankly, but, So he says, so where can I have a break? South America, he says. Then he says, why South America? Well, no one will really know me. That's what I thought. Low chance of any grief. Then he explains how so he goes to Colombia, right? Gets stopped at Colombia, at Bogota Airport. And they say, and this is according to him, right? I haven't seen, this isn't journalists having to contact the Colombian and Panamanian authorities. He tells us plainly. He doesn't try and hide it. He says he's detained because he's a threat to national security and he's going to be deported, right? And he's boasting about it. And do you know what? His followers think he's been hard done by. He literally spent last week saying we should deport all foreigners, and for them, by the way, for a good chunk of them anyway, that doesn't just mean foreigners. That doesn't mean foreign born. That means people in Britain who don't quite look the part, right? If they don't quite look like a Millwall supporter, they're not interested. You're not British, right? So what they mean, but they want to deport what they call foreigners, right? So they get their wish. A foreigner gets deported, and they're moaning about it. So then what happens is he says, this is again his own words. He says, I spent all day in a detention room / detention centre. And you don't need to put the stroke in, do you? You can just say one or the other. If you're in a detention room, it's fair to say it's in a detention centre. Or you could just say a detention centre. We understand you're in a room, right? Anyway, that's English. That's me just being, anal. Then he says, at which point I said, I am waiting for a deportation back to the UK. Oh, that would have been hilarious. Tommy Robinson gets deported back to the UK. I'd have loved that. But anyway, so he says, can I not just book a flight somewhere else? Now, of course, as far as the Colombian authorities are concerned, they just don't want him in their country. They don't give a shit where he goes, right? So they say, yeah, so he books a flight to Panama. And this again is his own words. He says, landed in Panama, what do you think happened? Detained, being deported. And I can't get over his supporters being outraged on his behalf, like he's been hard done by. He's taken their money to go on holiday and needed a break. What did he need a break from? What does he actually do? Does anyone know what he actually does? He does when he goes to his rallies, okay, he's got to act as MC at the rallies, right? He's got to get the microphone on and talk shit for a few hours, right? Okay, that's work. He does that, what? Once or twice a year? What does he need a break from? Give Nigel Farage his due. He doesn't whine about stuff like this, does he? He's quite happy to talk shit every day of the year. I mean, okay, he has to go to his Knightsbridge Billionaires Club to enjoy a glass of 30 quid a glass wine. But, you know, he still gets out there. Tommy Robinson, he talks for 3 hours and needs a break. Anyway, so he gets deported. And his followers, and then he does something else, right? Because his followers go, oh, it's disgraceful. Why? You're not a national security threat. He's a threat in any nation he crosses into. That's why he keeps... Because this isn't the first time he's been deported, is it? He even gave us... He was deported from Canada, wasn't he, recently? But he even gave us another example. He said... Or this is the article I'm reading it from. But he then reminded people how just 2 years ago he got deported from Mexico. Or he said a similar thing happened in Mexico. I don't remember exactly what happened. So, like, isn't he taking the hint? He's not wanted. I actually don't understand, in all honesty, though. If I'm going to ask one question here, if I'm going to ask one question, it's this. I don't understand how Colombia and Panama and Mexico, apparently, and Canada recognise him as a security threat, and yet some European countries don't. I know he's got an Irish passport and therefore an EU passport, but that doesn't mean to say they have to accept him. They can decide he's a national security threat for them and still, like, bar him from entry. Really weird. Did Robinson have a suspended sentence and activities violated him? He's had a custodial sentence. Nothing suspended about it. He's been in prison multiple times. He's a convicted felon. I know the last time was like contempt of court. Actually, for some countries, any felony, any criminal record will do. And I don't know, obviously, I don't know what it is for Colombia or Panama, whether they're that, sniffy about it. But he's been convicted for violent offences as well, you know. Like, he's a convicted violent offender. So I know his famous convictions are for, like, contempt of court and also, of course, he defaming that Syrian refugee lad. But he's been also convicted for, like, violent behaviour, stalking, things like that as well. So what I find baffling is not that Colombia and Panama deported him, but that more advanced economies don't. Quite frankly. But there we go. Maybe Robinson was scouting out Panama. It does attract a few wrong uns. Well, trade area, isn't it? Big trade area. Yeah. Pirate country, I guess. If you'd like to contribute to Robinson's legal fees, don't forget to tick the box titled Grift Aid. Yes, very good. I mean, but it is like there's been multiple investigations. Like, not like official investigation, but, investigative journalists looking at the situation. And he's constantly saying he needs money for this campaign and these legal fees and stuff, which is why he's always getting himself into legal trouble. He does it deliberately so he can say, I need legal. But the money he takes in is never anywhere near what gets spent on his legal fees, which are often a matter of public record, and his campaign fees, which don't have to necessarily be a matter of public record, but you can sort of work out ballpark figures based on the level of organisation. The money he's taken in, this is why he's always like going on holiday. Needed a break. What did he need a break from? Wasn't the deportation from Canada partly because he was on dodgy passport? I don't remember exactly. I thought it was because he was in the country on, like, a false pretext or something. I don't remember exactly now. I seem to remember. You know, when you go to a country, you have to say the purpose. They don't just let you in unless it's like a free travel area. So, I mean, for example, the only place we can wander now, unless we've got an EU. I mean, I haven't even got a British passport. But if I had it's the only passport I'm entitled to, and the only place it entitles me to just swan into is Ireland, right? It's the only place I can just walk into with a British passport. So other countries, whether or not you need a visa, you're still supposed to say what you're going there for. So I have an inkling, again, don't quote me because my memory's a bit fuzzy on it. I have an inkling he didn't properly explain the exact purpose of him being there, or something. It was something like that. I don't think it was his passport that was the issue, but I could be wrong. I meant in terms of return to the UK, was he looking at jail time and return? No, that's the thing. He's not actually fleeing the law this time, which is what he was doing last year. No, this time, PC Plod isn't after him at the moment. I mean, I couldn't tell you whether there's an ongoing investigation, because there's any number of things he could well be investigated for. Not the least of which is I suppose the reason there's not going to be any great investigation into his financial affairs other than HMRC, because he don't pay taxes properly, so they're after him, but they take ages to get after anyone. Look how long it's taken them, well, the National Crime Agency, admittedly, with Michelle Mone. That's been going on since, is that 2022 now? I think that's been going on for at least 3.5 years. And we keep going, we think they're close now. We think they're close to charges. We haven't got any charges. What's going on? Look how long it took just to investigate the SNP's motorhome. That should have been open and shut. That should have taken no more than 5 weeks, shouldn't it? These things just take pissing ages when you've got big names involved. They can investigate benefit fraud in no time. But when it comes to the big stuff, it takes some pissing years. What's that about? I'll tell you what it's about. It's because very rich people have very, very good lawyers. And you have to get every step right, otherwise the whole thing collapses. I suspect that's what the reason is. But so yeah, I mean, there might be any number of investigations. But I say I don't think there'll be an investigation into what he really spends his money on. Because at the end of the day, if his supporters want to give him money, they can give him money. The fact he's lying to them about what it's for, I don't know where the law stands on that. He'd probably got something. I've never actually seen one of his grift pages. He's probably got something in the small print that says, if there's any extra, I'm going to spend it on a foreign holiday or something. The fact he has Irish citizenship means we could remove his British citizenship without the legal bar having been made stateless. At the moment, we're actually trying to. Well, I think we have succeeded a bit. But after the Tory years, we're trying to build bridges with the Irish government. I don't think dumping Tommy Robinson on their lap would be conducive to that. Also, it could just be argued that might look like state overreach. I mean, it was state overreach when they've done it in the past. There's no there isn't really ever a reason to remove British citizenship from someone who has it by right of birth, is there? Because we don't have birth-based citizenship anyway. So yeah. So if you are a British citizen by right of your birth, as in your parentage, then I don't think there's ever a good reason to remove it, regardless of whether the law thinks there could or not. MI5 need a new server to cope with his file. Well, we're assuming they're even paying any attention to him. I still am upset by the fact that over a year ago we had riots in this country, and only one organiser, and not a top one, has ever faced justice for it. It's all right. I understand arresting the people who were actually taking part in the riots. They did that to stop people taking part of them. That's how you stop the riots happening, right? But how do you stop the future ones? Because I'll tell you something. I'm very pleased there were no riots this year. They were agitating for them, though. Farage and Robinson and a few others were absolutely trying to stoke it up. They were trying to raise the temperature. They wanted more riots. Now, what was the reason there weren't any? Was it... I mean, it was a bit rainy this summer, but it wasn't rainy every day. Were people still mindful of the fact that if anything, any gathering gets classed as a riot, they're going to find them on the cameras and they're going to be doing time? I don't know. I honestly don't know why there weren't. I do know that they wanted there to be. And these riots are organised, they're coordinated. Go after the coordinators. I'm going to say this. If our intelligence services are unable to go after them because they don't think they can meet the evidence bar to secure convictions, then Keir Starmer was wrong last year when he said the law's already good enough to deal with this. It's clearly not. If you cannot get the ringleaders of riots, then something's not good enough. Either the investigations are not well resourced enough, or the law isn't good enough. Read. With the common travel area, he could still live in the UK. It's Tommy Robinson. Yes, he could. Yeah, sort of. Question number 70 there. Birthright citizenship was removed in 1980 to my knowledge. Yes, it was, and in a lot of countries in Europe. So when I say British by right of birth, I don't mean where you were born. I mean to whom you were born. Basically, there's two ways of getting a British passport. One is you apply for British citizenship. The other is you just get it because you're born with it, right? So if you're born with it, I cannot think of any situation under which the government should ever remove your citizenship. If you were a British citizen from birth, that should remain. I mean, you can give it up if you want, but the state shouldn't take it off you. That's my view, regardless of any duality to it. If you think someone is a threat, then we don't have many prisons, admittedly, although Labour are building some, and then maybe not chucking in people for short-term sentences for minor misdemeanours. Pygmalion there say it wasn't rioting weather. Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't raining it did rain a bit. It wasn't raining every day. Apparently, though, however, due to the unusual nature of our summer this year, started a bit early and was a bit rainy. So apparently all this works together. Don't ask me how. I know I'm a scientist, but I'm not that much of a scientist. Apparently we should have some fairly spectacular autumnal leaves coming up. So we should have some, my wife will like that, she's into her colour. So we should have some nice, vibrant autumnal scenes if you live anywhere near trees. Dry summer and hot, so actually good right weather. Well, again, it was dry as in the water companies let all our water go away and didn't catch enough of it because, 35 years or whatever it is now of privatisation, not a single reservoir built. Technically, one reservoir was completed during privatisation, but that was begun while it was nationalised. And we are now building more reservoirs, but again, that is because the government have insisted that they build reservoirs now. But they didn't take it upon themselves to build any. So, and they also didn't take it upon themselves to make sure that pipes didn't leak quite so much. It's like, oh, we'll wait for the pipe to leak, then we'll think about doing something about it, at which point you've just lost loads of water. So it wasn't really, was it really a dry summer? Because I seem to remember it rained a lot. We just have hose pipe bans. So it's dry in the reservoirs, not on the ground. But anyway, for whatever reason, botanists assure us that the leaves should be spectacular this autumn. No riot this year, no football tournaments to get the yobs down the pub. There was. Women's team were playing. We've got the old rugby as well. England beat France. Imagine having Tiny Tommy in the seat behind you on a plane, howling, crying, needing a nappy change and kicking the back of your seat. Yeah. His legs probably wouldn't reach though. You'd be all right. And he won't travel economy class. Not our Tommy. Oh no, don't. His supporters are very generous, His supporters are very generous. He'll have had plenty of money. He'll have been flying business. I don't think he'll be flying first class. I mean, that's probably excessive even for him. But he'd been flying business class, so his feet probably wouldn't reach the seat in front. You get a bit more room there. Raining, drove back from Blackpool early. It was like driving through a 70-mile automatic car wash. Well, the northwest, of course, cops for it. We don't get it quite so much here. I'm on the east side of the Pennines, so we get protected from it a lot. You get it, so you do get it a lot in the northwest of England. And so I remember, I went to University at Manchester, where it's famous for pissing it down all the time. And it did. You know, I went there my first year, absolutely slung it down. And I went prepared because we all knew what Manchester's like. And I bought myself a trench coat, you know, fully togged up. And a friend of mine, after A-levels, did a foundation degree at Doncaster College first. Then he went to university at Manchester. So he followed me a year later, and I was telling him, oh, it pisses it down all the time, you know. Oh, it's like they say, absolutely every day, pissing it down, pissing it down, pissing it down. And he says it's the only place I've ever been where you don't need a watering can ever, except indoors, of course. And then in the second year, his first year, hardly rained at all. He thought I was taking the piss, if you pardon the expression. He thought I was making it up. He was going, it's like, I mean, it rained every now and then, but it wasn't. It was just like in Doncaster. It wasn't excessive. So he thought I was just embellishing it, just to make him buy a poncho or something. And then in my third year, his second year, it started pissing it down again. He knew what I was talking about. So he had that really weird year, which would have been, when would that have been? That would have been 95, 96, when it just hardly rained. Anyway. Oh, something to do with larger amounts of sugar than normal in the leaves. There we go then. Yeah, wet in Wales, that's not unusual. Well, no, I mean, in Wales, that's also very much on that west side of Britain. You just cop for everything. Where I am, on the sort of East Midlands, really, the north part of the East Midlands, we're covered by the Pennines. So a lot of it gets blocked. A lot of the extreme weather gets blocked. Do you still have waste treatment problems because of the deadbeat UK H2O corporations? It's actually an interesting question. I actually don't know what progress we're making on that. It's a very good question. So yeah, so because the government have now passed a law, so I'll just remind people what the law says in terms of water companies. So what was happening over the last few years, okay, let's say when they're legally allowed to dump, because they can still do that. So because of our Victorian infrastructure that they were supposed to modernise, we have this problem whereby there's no separate system to deal with flood water and like just our normal water. So if it rains very heavily, the system overflows and you have to let it flood, you have to let it out the outlets to stop the system being overwhelmed. So if there's very heavy rainfall and you need to sort of vent raw sewage because of it, then you sort of technically are allowed to. But what was happening is water companies were dumping even on very dry periods, when it's not just that there wasn't heavy rainfall, there wasn't any rainfall, which is hideously illegal. So what the government have done is they've changed the law now. So any water company doing that will be not just the water company, they'll obviously be liable for automatic fines, but individuals responsible for doing it can be prosecuted. If, in the most extreme case, they could be prosecuted with a crime that can put you in prison, but that's the extreme case. That would be for water company executives who deliberately and repeatedly break the law, right? So the water companies now technically cannot, as their business model, dump when they're not supposed to dump, right? So we should, and there's a few other measures coming in as well. Like, for example, water companies have to, by law, and they did this for the first time in April, they have to come up with a plan for how they're going to reduce the number of days they're dumping. They also have to install monitors, because Liz Truss, when she was Environment Secretary under David Cameron, told water companies, oh, you don't have to worry about all that monitoring nonsense. So that's been reversed. It's like, no, you do have to bother with all that monitoring nonsense. So they have to reinstall all the monitors they took out, and they don't mark their own homework. That will be overseen independently. What I don't know exactly is how much because that's obviously something that you can't do overnight. So anything that requires infrastructure to be implemented may take a couple of years. But it will be interesting. The problem with data is it always takes a very long time to get it. So although you'd think Labour have been in power for a year and they've had their law in place since I think it was February, so it's over half a year now. So should we be able to see any signs? And it's like, not necessarily, because data doesn't necessarily get released for a long time afterwards. But it will be interesting to see. I might try and find it, though, just in case there has some. Oh, South East Kent has its own microclimate here, never snows here, really. But yeah, so it will be interesting to see if there's been a dramatic reduction in dumping. I would ordinarily say if there had, the government would already be boasting about it, but actually this government doesn't seem to boast about the things it's doing well. It only seems to like flaunting its stupidity, which might be harsh, but you know. The thing is about Labour, why I keep saying they need to sort their comms out, it's not just because it's embarrassingly bad. It's not like, it's certainly not good enough, as evidenced by the polls. It's that it's embarrassingly bad. And the reason why I'm getting increasingly frustrated by it is because you look at America, right? Now, in America, the Democrats, there's limited things they can do, because obviously they don't have control of any branch of government. They don't have control of the White House. They don't have control of the Supreme Court. They don't have control of either house in Congress. So there is limited amounts they can do. But one thing they can do is they can rile up public opinion against what MAGA are doing and slow MAGA down, because they need to keep people on side. And they're just not. They're just standing back. They're not doing anything. Individual Democrats occasionally say something that you go, yeah, that was good, that was a nice... But it's like there's no coordinated messaging from the Democrats in America. Like, so there's no opposition to MAGA. And you just think, so this is going to be the problem. Labour are in power, so they are actually in power. So they've still got lots of advantages. But they still need to win the communications battle. But anyway. Oh, the irony. Hosepipe bans and dumping of overflows at the same time. Well done, water companies, and special shout out to Yorkshire Water for special bonuses. Yorkshire Water actually, I mean, we're in Yorkshire Water. They are actually far from the worst, believe it or not. They're actually, do you know what? Yorkshire Water, in terms of the league table of shit, are actually in the relegation zone. So Yorkshire Water they were, I think, the first or one of the first to instigate a ban. Don't get me wrong, they're like all the rest, they haven't built the infrastructure to cope, right? But in terms of the behaviour of water companies, they're actually one of the better ones. Unbelievably. No waste treatment plants. We do. The problem we have is if it rains heavily, the stuff is going to flood anyway. So the reason why they dump is to make sure that they can eject it in a controlled way, which still doesn't do any good, but it's better than it flooding out on the road. Otherwise, it would just come out on the roads. That's what would happen. If they didn't sort of deliberately dump when there's very heavy rainfall, it would just flood out onto the roads and everyone's houses, and everyone will get really pissy about that. So, you know. But the reason for that is because the pipe that carries the effluents and the pipes that carry the rainwater, same pipes. And they don't need to be. Modern systems don't have that. Modern systems do not need to dump when there's heavy rainfall because it's carried in different pipes. No one cares about you dumping rainwater into a river. Need down at level of comms. Again, right, let's not put in too much faith in individuals. We just need good comms. It's a team effort. We just need people who aren't idiots. Because at the moment, it's not just that as I say, it's not that the comms are not good enough. They're woeful. They're really awful. Is it all over for your party? Well, I suspect not. I suspect not. Obviously, it's all over for Zara Sultana by the looks of it. I don't know whether any of you have read, so I did a stream on it yesterday. Jamie Driscoll, another one of those dickheads, he tweeted something. So he's part of the group that looks after the money, right? So he tweeted out that the money's completely safe, that Zara Sultana, you know, she hasn't gathered money to some weird place. It all goes to the place they all agreed. So, like, she's not doing anything dodgy. Let me just find it. But he also said that this schism between them, Sultana and Corbyn and co, has been going on for a long time. Let me read it. We are incredibly disappointed to see the leadership fallout in your party, but we want to assure you your donations are safe. So it goes into a little bit of a thing about how the donations are absolutely fine. Wherever you've done, it's all going through the right place, as set up, as agreed by all of them. Nothing dodgy there. But that this group doesn't own the email. So they've got nothing to do with any emails going out. They're looking after the money, right? But then he goes on to say, in the spirit of openness, we have to disclose that we have tried to mediate between Jeremy and Zara for some weeks now. We have raised concerns about the breakdown of trust, poor communication, fucking catching on the left wing, isn't it? Inadequate governance and a lack of transparency. Now these, remember, are the things that Zara Sultana is complaining about. And they said, in blunt terms, we demanded a meeting to get it sorted. One side agreed, the other has not responded despite multiple attempts. Now, although he doesn't name names, we know which side's which. We know that Corbyn is the one who's not engaging here, along with the others, but Corbyn is the big name there. So yeah, Jamie Driscoll there putting the blame firmly on Jeremy Corbyn. So let me tell you what I would suggest is going to happen. Or I'll tell you what I definitely say is happening. Jeremy Corbyn, right, so what? Let's go right back to the beginning. Zara Sultana wanted to start this party, right? She announced it before Jeremy Corbyn had even agreed. So it's like she was the driving force behind it in the early days. Now, what's happened now is Jeremy Corbyn's crew, because it's not just him, have decided to exclude her. So what's likely is Corbyn getting cold feet? I think the opposite. What's happening here is they're co-opting it. Maybe he didn't like the idea of the party as Zara Sultana was proposing it, but he's now, or he and his crew, his peace and justice crew, have decided that this is actually useful for them. So I think what is happening here is, I think the Corbyn crew are taking it over. So I think the party will exist. I think it will keep going. I think it will go into the next election. I think it will split the vote against Reform UK. I'm not saying it will definitely let Reform UK in. That would be a ridiculous thing to say at this point. We don't know how much momentum Reform UK can maintain. Totally ignore that they're all boasting, by the way, today about them being 30-odd% in the polls and Labour on the same level as the Conservatives. There is no such poll out, by the way. It's the Find Out Now poll who don't actually poll. So they don't poll for their polls. It's complete garbage. And also, I will point out, if you're just thinking, oh, you just don't like the results, Phil. I don't like any of the polling results, but I will be consistent about which ones are good and which ones aren't. At the last election, YouGov for the third election in a row with the most accurate. Find Out Now were in second last place. And it's not just like, well, some polls has to be slightly out. They were way out. So they have this idea, they're called Find Out Now, because they have this idea that you can do polling on the cheap. You know, all of this stuff about, oh, yeah, tens of thousands of people you need for a decent MRP poll. No, you don't need that. You just need some crow's entrails and a bowl, right? Every time they're put to the test, they fail. So, should Corbyn just stand down as MP? Well, I would say that of anyone that, you know, but he's not going to, is he? So, there's no point in saying that. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen to this Your Party. It'll probably even stay called the Your Party. That's what it is. Now, it won't be as big as it could have been because a lot of people have already looked at it and it's an absolute shit show. I think I've seen quite a few figures on the hard left who are proper Corbynites who even they are looking at it and having to publicly say, this is a shit show. But I don't know why they're surprised. I don't know why they're surprised. The reason why the 2017 election ran quite smoothly, I know they lost, but it ran smoothly, was because Corbyn hadn't had time to replace everyone with his own stooges. 2019, that's the one they always boast about as well. Oh, what about 2017, Phil? That's when it was a proper Labour Party still. Just had him in charge. In 2019, every single key position that was running the campaign was his pick, his person. And it's nothing to do with their politics. They're all incompetent. They're utterly incompetent. Right? And the 2019 election was a complete shit show. Do you remember that day when they announced free broadband, right? They were supposed to be talking about their healthcare policies. All of the front bench, all of the senior members of the Labour Party, right, had all been briefed on healthcare policies because that's what they were going to go out talking about that day. Then they got Corbyn basically kneecapped his own bloody MPs by suddenly springing the free broadband thing. It wasn't planned or anything. It was a complete shit show. Utter shit show. So why did they think that building up their own party from scratch, run entirely by these, cock-up merchants, why are they surprised it's incompetent? Because it is. It's utterly incompetent. But anyway, it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think the party's going to collapse. I don't know exactly what their plan is, but they've obviously got a plan that excludes Sultana, right? And, clearly the likes of Jamie Driscoll are also looking aghast at this. Do I think there'd be sufficient tactical voting to stop Reform UK if there was an election tomorrow? So it's always a really weird question because there isn't an election tomorrow. So you again, the premise of who would you vote in an election tomorrow, there isn't one. There's a lot of build-up to any campaign, including a tactical voting campaign. What I would say is, I think that in 2029, I'm not putting too much expectation in people looking at America and going, we don't want that here. But I do think that could be a factor. I do think a lot of people will pragmatically look at the situation, especially if Labour have delivered things that people have to say, yeah, this is actually quite good. I don't think Labour can count on the level of tactical voting they got last year. I do think that there might be a higher level than expected level of tactical voting, because I do think people will see Reform UK as a very serious threat. But is it enough? That I don't know. A lot of it will depend on Labour winning over people who don't even think about tactical voting. Because remember, although tactical voting did a really good job last year, you didn't see evidence of tactical voting everywhere you should have done. Like if you look at the stopthetories.vote site, there were plenty of places there where they had a definite, you need to vote this to stop the Tories, and there was no real evidence of tactical voting there. So it worked where they pushed their message in terms of what resources they had to push a message. They were mostly focusing that message on where tactical voting would have the best chance of success. But there was no big national campaign. The person leading the national campaign was basically Carol Vorderman. Bless her. No one else really. There were a couple of others who said at the last minute, but it's too late then. So, yeah, I would say, and I think there'll be less. I think there'll be less motivation at the next election, but I think Reform UK will still provide good motivation. Assuming Reform UK are still in a good position in the polls, they may not be. I mean, they might not be. I'm not holding out any hope they won't be. I still think they will be Labour's main challenge, but there's nothing to say that the polling as it is now is the polling as it will be in 4 years' time, 3.5 years' time, or whatever. Jeffrey said, I'm pretty sure at least one person I know was turned off by free broadband alone. Well, I don't think it would have been widely off-putting. There was nothing wrong with the basic premise. It's the fact that they announced it suddenly without really having planned it, and they completely caught their own MPs off guard who were getting ready to talk about healthcare. Then suddenly they had to talk about this, and it was like, so they came over as couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery. Because imagine You know, imagine you're one of their spokespeople, you're one of their front bench, shadow cabinet member. You're going out to talk to the press, to talk to the public and stuff like that, answer questions. And you've been briefed on a particular set of policies, so you've got the detail of them. Then suddenly you're being asked about this new policy. You haven't even been told about it. Or you haven't been told much about it. Of course you're going to come across, like you're going to and ah a lot because you don't know what's going on. Absolute nonsense. Good video in equality. Have I getting someone from the Equality Trust in for an interview? No. I don't chase after interviews anymore for two reasons. First of all, because I'm sick of wasting my time contacting people, and then they might get back to me and sound positive or not. And then when they do, and I go, oh, yeah, let's do this, and then they just ghost me. And I get what you're probably supposed to do is keep chasing people up, but I'm not about that. I'm not about that game. As far as I'm concerned, if I write to someone and they don't write back, I assume they're not interested. Because I get loads of emails. A lot of them are scams. Sorry if I don't reply back to every email that's a proper email, by the way. I just get shitloads. And I'm looking at them now. But even the ones that are not scams, like, I don't answer. If it's like a business, you get loads of like business things. And I don't reply to them. And let me tell you why. Actually, my YouTube handler said she actually laughed when she saw this. But let me read it out to you, right? So on the part of my channel where you can find the email address, I don't guarantee to answer, by the way, because I can only get through so many a day. I write, underneath where the emails are, I do not respond to business enquiries which contain no information other than an invitation for me to email you back about some mystery box which you would like to offer me. Also, I do not view an invitation to sell your products as an exciting opportunity. That's clear, isn't it? That is clear. Piss off with your business inquiries. The email is supposed to be, if someone thinks I've got something wrong in an email, in a video, if they think that I've unfairly maligned someone or just got something wrong, that works. It's for people who want to share some useful information with me. It's even for people who want to contact me because they want me to do something with them. I mean, some people may remember, I've done a video with The Excluded. I've done a video with We Own It. Those were people that approached me. I'm more than happy to take those. And I will still, you know, if someone comes to me and they say they want to talk about something that I approve of, and I don't approve of everything, but if I approve of it, I will do a video with them, but it will bomb. It will do absolutely terribly. I've only ever had one video where I talked to another person on the video that has done well. And that was the first video I did with Mike Galsworthy. But all the other videos, terrible, dreadful for views. So it doesn't get out. And given that at the moment, views are historically down just because of circumstances, then it really will get, like, there was a video I did, and I really loved these discussions, the ones I did with Freddie of What's Left. And I thought they were really good discussions. Got no views. No views at all. It was like single figures of thousands, which is like terrible. So, I thought they were quite good. So then you have the second problem. So when you get someone on who's, they might be a campaigner or they might be an expert. Experts are the worst, right? I love to talk to experts, but not to do something on the channel because, or every now I approached one person. I'll tell you, I approached one person. They did it with Stephen Wolf, Professor Stephen Wolf, and that was really good. But again, not many views. The problem is a lot of people who know their stuff are actually quite boring. So I discussed this in a stream not long ago, in the last couple of weeks. I can't remember exactly when. And someone said that experts really need to be communicating better with the public. And my argument there is, no, they don't, because they're not very good at it. Some experts are. You do get some people who are experts and also good communicators. God love them. But by and large, experts are not natural communicators. And even the ones who are may not have the time, right? So it's not the job of experts to communicate things to the public. It's the job of people like me to do that. But it's my job to be a conduit, I suppose. It's my job to make sure I know what the experts are saying, not the gobshites, and then communicate that. But the problem was, the problem is, yeah, whenever I do like a talk with someone on my channel, it just craters the views. So if someone comes to me, I've never turned anyone down who's got like a worthwhile course. So if someone comes to me and says, Phil, look, you know, there's this course. If I don't agree with it, I'll just happily say, sorry, I know I'm liberal and left, but I don't agree with every left liberal course. You know, I've got enough gumption to do that. But if I agree with it and I say, yeah, this is an important message, then I'll happily have them on, and I'll do what I can to get it views. But I'm not going to chase people because I'm literally spending my time on a fool's errand, because most of the time I don't get people coming back to me at all. Sometimes I get them coming back to me once and they sound positive, and then you go, okay, so let's arrange it, blah, 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 and then nothing. It's a waste of time, and the end of it is a video that gets no views. So like, what's the point? So relieve your videos don't have an ad for NordVPN. You mean in the videos? Yeah, a lot of creators do that one, don't they? I followed some people on YouTube who do the old blah, 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 a couple of minutes in the video, then, oh, but first, let me just give a word from our sponsor, NordVPN. Go away. But no, I'm not a salesperson. Obviously I've got no problem with adverts. I have adverts. It's how I make money, right? I've got no issue with adverts. I just would feel stupid doing them. I would feel stupid stopping partway through a video to talk about whatever product. I was like, I couldn't do it. I'd be too embarrassed. If you've ever done videos with others after the might go to the one, YouTube might have buried it so that didn't see anything either. Yeah, we did. It's not that YouTube buried it. Like, people keep thinking this about, oh, why is YouTube not showing my videos all of a sudden and stuff like that. It is. It's just, YouTube is actually much better these days. Because of the technology, it gets better and better at finding the people who are more likely to enjoy your videos. It shows videos to plenty of people. I just did have a NordVPN ad. Well, I'm not responsible. No, I didn't. You did. So the adverts are nothing to do with me. I can exclude certain categories of advert, not really specific. I think I can block certain websites with adverts. It's really complicated. I don't really worry about that myself. But you can exclude certain categories of advert. I don't. But the advert's personal to you. So whatever adverts you get, I don't get NordVPN. Do you know what adverts I get? I get Monday.com adverts. That's what I get. Monday.com. I get boring adverts. They're always boring. I've never had an interesting advert in my life. Must say something about me. Fast forwarding all video advertising can't be bothered. Well, I do as well. I can't. But it is what it is. Give us your best AD voice. I really don't have one, honestly. I couldn't do it. Do you know what? I tried being a salesperson once. For literally a few months, I was terrible at it. I don't have the personality for it at all. Because an advert, by definition, you've got to think of yourself as one of two things. You can think of yourself as an actor just reading out lines, but then it's like, or you can think of yourself as someone who's trying to convince people to buy a product you probably don't use yourself, which is fine, but you've got to make money too, Phil. I do make money. I make other people do the adverts for me. YouTube's a brilliant deal, right? It's an absolutely cracking deal. They organise the adverts for you. I just have to say, yes, put adverts on the channel. That's all I have to do. I don't have to do anything else. There was a time in the past where there was a little bit more monkeying about. Nowadays, it's just like, don't have to do anything. Um, totally off topic. Where did you get the book stroke cat stroke wine poster behind you? Oh, I can't remember. I've had it a while. I can't remember, I'm afraid. I'm sure, though, because the internet's very clever, if you were to just put in cat poster, that's what I do. I read books, I drink wine, and I know things. I'm sure it will come on. The frame was separate. I bought the frame separately. No war hamster adverts. No war hamster adverts. So yeah, I 100%. Unless my very livelihood depended on it, then I probably could put myself through it. I have no problem, by the way. I will just point out, I've got no moral objection to people do, because it's just an advert at the end of the day. When the creator does their own advert, their own sponsored advert, I have no moral objection. I don't think it's a bad thing to do. Like, there's no difference between doing that and having a more professional, not that all the adverts look professional, but a professional advert put onto your channel anyway at the same point. I just can't do it. I couldn't do it with a straight face. Phil, sincerity in the art of the salesman. You need to believe in yourself. Phil, also lie a lot to sell crap. Well, that's your problem, isn't it? I mean, apart from anything else, if you were to do it, if I were to, I'm not going to. If I were to have to do it, I'd have to record it separately. I couldn't just do it in the middle of the video, because then you're talking about the important thing, right? The message you want to get out. Then suddenly you're talking about selling frying pans or something, and then you go back to the serious stuff, and the juxtaposition, my brain wouldn't be able to cope with it. So I'd have to record it separately and just insert it in. But yeah, I don't need to do it. YouTube's fine. YouTube, the money's absolutely fine. No problem at all with it. As long as the views are there. So you just focus on the views. If you focus on the views, the money follows. It's really simple. And don't say certain words, because then they demonetize you for it. A very political question here. Did Arthas do wrong? Arthas did very wrong, yes. In fact, it could just be argued he could not have got it much wronger. Aubrey there saying, I read books, I drink tequila, I smoke dope, it's legal here, and I know things. Yeah, I wouldn't anyway, even if it were legal. So, although these days I don't even drink a lot of wine. I hardly ever drink. If I were to go teetotal, I've actually just realised I need to actually do some drinking of port, because my wife's family get me port for Christmas, because I don't really like spirits and stuff. My flatmates at university psychologically scarred me. And, sorry, Emma, I did miss your comment. If you post it again, I shall not miss it. So they just get me port because it's the only thing they know I like. But I don't drink that much. And I've still got 2 bottles of port. And they're going to get me more port this Christmas. YouTube doesn't know me at all, keeps throwing boring crypto, banking and investment ads at me. What I'm really interested in is DIY and craft tools. That would be more interest, at least. I'm not interested in DIY and craft tools, but DIY and craft tool adverts tend to be at least a little bit more interesting, don't they? So there's at least entertainment value in them, showing, because usually they take the form of showing how powerful the blade or thing is. Cutting through various things. Do we know any more about our government and NATO's response to Russia's violations of both Polish and Estonian airspace? No, at the moment we're trying to deal with a cyber attack, aren't we? Do we know where that's from yet? I suppose we don't. I mean, the issue today is multiple airports around Europe, including London, Gatwick, I think, yes, Heathrow, sorry, have been hit by a cyber attack. Russia or China? You tell me. Don't know. Could be, I suppose it could be someone else. So that is our current issue, and that is, again, I did that video a while ago, didn't I? Not that long ago, early this month. People need to be a little bit, not worried about it, but a bit more aware about it. China has been laying cyber warfare traps for a long time. And the thing, People need to get out of this habit that if Europe were properly invaded, like they were to properly sweep in and try and take out lots at once, like a blitzkrieg, the idea that we would just be meeting it with military defence, no, we'll have to deal with cyber attacks. You know, we've dropped the ball. We've not learnt. Cyber defence has not kept up with cyber attacks. You know, Labour, to be fair, are putting more into it. I don't know whether it's enough. What happened to the petition? It takes a while. It could take weeks for them to decide. As you can imagine, people write petitions all the time, and it has to go to a committee to be looked at. So I'll let you know when a decision comes back, however it comes back. Wasn't there also a bomb threat in the UK? Oh, was there? I've not seen that. I haven't been paying attention entirely to the news all day because I'm pretty sure that would be headline news though, so I can't see anything on the BBC. No, I'm pretty sure if you've got junk food ads banned from council property on the headlines of the BBC News and not a bomb threat, I'm guessing there wasn't a bomb threat. Or if there was, it was very boring. Why haven't Russia used its full cyber attack capability against Europe and Ukraine? I don't know. I honestly, I wouldn't even like to speculate. But if you force me to speculate, why not? It's fun. Maybe it's because what they want to avoid is a situation where we feel we've got ample excuse to engage Russia militarily, right? It would be perfectly legal in international law to properly ally with Ukraine, to defend Ukraine by 1, engaging Russian troops in Ukraine, and 2, attacking legal targets inside Russia. So we have, if we wanted to use it, we don't want to, none of our governments want to use it, but if we did want to use it, we absolutely have a legal pathway to invading Russia ourselves. We wouldn't be stupid enough to try and literally take Moscow because, you know, better generals have tried it in the past and failed. And quite frankly, who'd even want Moscow these days? It's a shithole. But we nonetheless could. And maybe what Russia wants to avoid is a situation whereby they give us no choice. You know, they give us no choice but to respond militarily. It could also be, I mean, again, I'm not an expert, and I haven't seen what an expert said. It could also be that they're not quite ready, that things like this are them testing. You know how you get like a missile test? North Korea do missile, well, everyone does missile tests. You develop a new missile, you test it, right? So you blow up a little part of your country just to test it out. This could be the same thing. It could just be testing their cyber weapons. And the fact that it's been semi-successful at least is not encouraging. Oh, Nick there said, I had to give away my port, I can't drink it quick enough. Well, I can't, because I haven't actually even touched it. So in fact, I can actually tell you the alcoholic drinks I've had this year. This summer, I had 3 bottles of cider, not all at once. 3 separate days. And I know I've had 3 bottles of cider because I bought 4 when we had our first heat wave, because cider weather when it's hot. And I still got 1 in the fridge. Cherries and berries one, very nice, but I haven't had it yet. So that's all I've had all year, alcohol. I haven't opened any of the port. So there it is. Sorry, we've been rambling, it's my fault. They don't want to expose their full capability until they need it. Well, maybe, again, I don't know. That's my first thought. My second thought is maybe they're just testing. It's just testing until they know they're ready. A bit like nosing around undersea cables, because that's another thing they can do. Snip undersea internet cables. All right, cut us off. Which will be a right pain in the arse, because I play a lot of like American-based MMOs. I think one of them's got their servers in Europe, so I would be really unhappy. Not all of them are based in America. I think, where's Final Fantasy based? Is that in Japan? Either way, that would probably snooker us there as well. Anyway, never mind. Russia's lost 70% of its military. They can't afford to open a new front. Not militarily, no. No, they can't. Absolutely. In fact, the outgoing head of MI6 was basically saying that Putin has bitten off more than he can chew. But that's us thinking purely in terms of military might, isn't it? If we add in the potential for cyber warfare, and it's not just that the UK is behind, America is behind, Europe is behind. We're behind China at least. We're probably behind Russia, but we're definitely behind China. Right? So there we go. In Soviet America, MMO plays you. Well, it may well do. I mean, who knows? Maybe Trump, once he's got control of the judicial system and the media, which is his current target, maybe he'll turn his attention on MMOs. Oh, if someone writes a comment in general chat that's not entirely complimentary of the orange one, the company goes bust. Maybe that's how it'll work. Maybe they'll fine MMO companies for allowing people to shit talk Trump in the chat. I will say, however, when you get anyone talking about politics in gaming, there seems to be way more that's on Trump's side than against, is all I'll say. Which is not my experience of gamers when I've played with them. So I don't know whether it's just... I don't know. But whenever you see a game, like a gaming channel that also dips into politics, they tend to be quite MAGA. Really weird. But anyway, oh, should I repost again? Yes, Em, I will stay on until you repost it again. Sorry, I've missed it again, haven't I? I'll find it. No, I know, I've got it. You're fine. It says, regarding emails, I've emailed you questions, comments from streams or occasional literature. Is that okay? It is absolutely okay. Just don't always expect to respond. So I occasionally respond. But first of all, like, it's my sort of what should we say? The part of my brain that deals with these things doesn't like dealing with these things. So I take the effort to read them, although instantly deleting the ones that are obvious scams, because certain domain names seem to crop up a lot, and I only reply to a few. But there it is. But anyway, there we go. Thanks very much for coming on, everyone. Have a great rest of evening, and until next time, I'll see you later.